1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Leave the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All of it.
One of resistance,
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
rebellion,
Rebellion is built on hope.
and redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you. Always.
Well, hello and welcome to Star Wars Reactions. We're so glad you're joining us this week because we are going to continue our coverage of The Acolyte. And it's going to be a great discussion. So let's get some introductions out of the way. My name is Aaron Harris, and joining me, he is legendary in his own right. He is the, let's see, what can we do this week? He is the, let's go classic. He is the 3PO to my R2, the David Modis. David, what's up, brother?
Hey man, I didn't know if you were going to go like, I don't know, Kalnaka to Yord or something like that, but maybe it's a good idea not to pick Kalnaka this week, but we'll get into that.
Well, if we really wanted to do it right, we would have done, he's the Kalnaka to my Basil.
Oh, exactly. That's perfect. Oh man, no, I'm ready to react as always, and looking forward to seeing what you think about this. And there's so much to cover, way more than what we have time for. But yeah, ready to react and ready to have some fun talking Star Wars with you, buddy.
Yeah, same here. Let's do it. Well, this week we are discussing the 4th episode of The Acolyte. This episode was called Day, released on the 18th of June of the year 2024, directed by Alex Garcia Lopez, and written by Claire Keichel?
I think so, yeah.
And Cor Adana. See, well, that's a name that you would think would come straight out of Star Wars.
Right.
Jedi Master Cor Adana. I think they're angling for a role somewhere.
That is a Star Wars name. I notice when there's the Spanish names, you have got them down. That is your.
Hey, 10 years living in South America, I better have them down.
I know the way you pronounce them you nail it. I help you with everything else. None of the Spanish stuff. You've got that.
I got the Spanish ones down pat. And also to not lose my Spanish edge, I tend to watch all my. Cause I love soccer. If y'all know me, I love soccer. Played it in college. Played it growing up when I was overseas. But I cannot watch I love watching soccer. I cannot watch it in English.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's
the
cool.
Announcers are so boring. I'm sorry, y'all. U.S. announcers doing soccer games are so boring. You haven't lived until you've watched a game and listened to the Spanish announcers.
Well, you'd think they would take notes from the Spanish announcers, but apparently not.
You would think, but no, there's just a different energy from the Spanish soccer announcers to the English soccer announcers. It's just a different. There's a different energy level, and I just can't. Matter of fact, the Copa America, the America Cup tournament's starting. Actually, I think it started today. And but the game I care about is not till the day after tomorrow. But I'll find that game. I will not watch them in English. I'll have to watch them in Spanish.
Well, it'll keep you sharp, it keeps you sharp.
Yes. It just different energy. I don't know. different energy. And we went way off target.
That's
on
okay.
that. It's
Okay.
good though. It's
That's
good
okay.
though. Anyway, back to the Acolyte. So, Corradano, Claire Keischel wrote it. Alex Garcia Lopez directed. Synopsis for this episode straight from StarWars.com. On Coruscant, Osha says goodbye to Jackie, having found her sister and cleared her name. But May and Kaimar remain at large, and the duo has tracked down the third Jedi on her kill list, Master Kalnaka. While Jedi Master Vernestra Rowe grapples with the news of a Force user seemingly trained by a Jedi murdering members of the Order, Master Soul convinces her to let him take Osha on the mission to try to prevent another murder. Their quest to reach Kalnaka first takes them into the forest world of Kofar, where the Wookiee has retreated among the dense foliage. Along with a team of Jedi, including Padawan Jeki Lon and Jedi Knight Yord Fandar, the Guardians of Peace and Justice race to save Kalnaka and capture May, who is beginning to have a change of heart after seeing her sister alive. However, in the forest teeming with booby traps and dangerous wildlife, another mysterious adversary awaits. An imposing figure, shrouded in a dark cloak, a stranger carrying a red lightsaber and wearing a terrifying mask to conceal their identity.
Dun, dun, dun.
What? So let's jump into initial reactions for this episode. And I'm going to steal this one first, David. I am going first on this one because
Do it.
I'm going to say this by far has been my favorite episode to date. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. It was, to me, it was great. We got some character development. We see some relationship building between Osha and Jackie. We see more of Osha's relationship with Yord when she's asking him to take care of May. And then of course her with Saul, but man, everything in this episode just hit from the acting and dialogue to the scenery and backgrounds and the characters and the aliens. We have a whole plethora of creatures around the Jedi temple and everything. The music, oh my gosh. And the last 5 minutes of this episode, dude, nearly sent me to the ER. I mean, this was absolutely insane on the highest level. Absolutely fabulous. It's and at the end of it, I was like, seriously, that's it? You're leaving me hanging like this? Which was perfect because, you know, you go back, you think, and I've heard a lot of people complaining about the cliffhanger at the end of the episode where you can't, you know, people are and having to wait a week. And a lot of people are complaining, oh, you can't do that to us. We got to wait a whole week. No, we need it now. Welcome to the 80s, folks. There was no dump the whole season at once and binge watch it. There was every week at 8:00, you sit down and you watch the episode. When it's over, you wait one full week till the next week at 8:00 and you pray something doesn't happen that takes you away and you miss it. Because if you weren't lucky enough to have a VHS player to record it, you had to wait till the next time it aired.
That's right.
And usually that was during the off season. There was no replaying it 5 or 6 times during the week. So this is just like old school TV, make you wait, hit cliffhanger stuff. Love it. So yeah, this was great. I was over the moon for this episode. How about you, David? How was, or what are your thoughts on it?
Oh, very similar to yours. Absolutely, absolutely enjoyed this. When you mentioned the cliffhanger, one of the things I thought about is I'm like, I can't speak for George Lucas, but wouldn't he be proud with the cliffhanger? I mean, we know that he always went and watched the Saturday morning serials. I remember, he's just basically the same age as my dad. And my dad went. My dad always went and watched, Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers. My dad talked about it. And you'd go and get a Tootsie Roll and a bag of popcorn so big you couldn't finish it. And you came back and there was always the cliffhanger. And here it is. And you and I can't wait till next Tuesday. But then you got time to talk about it. Like you mentioned the 80s. I mean, in 77, 80, and 83, you had 3 years to process and talk about, what's going on, let alone, just 7 days and stuff. I'm glad there's a little time in between. Netflix was doing the whole dump thing. And I'm glad that they haven't done that here, right? With Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett or Andor and stuff like that. So loved seeing the Jedi Temple, seeing some characters that we recognize, tying it into the Kiadi-Mundi. And we thought we saw Plo Koon, but I'm calling it fake Plo Koon, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. And but just it was so cool. And I see that Aaron read it in the StarWars.com description. It does call a stranger carrying a red lightsaber. So I noticed in the credits it's called The Stranger. And so I just loved that part, how that character just floated in. You're like, what? And so I love that. I loved the ending. I couldn't believe if you take off credits, it's probably about 28 minutes. And boy, like Aaron said, it hit every beat. It packed it in 28 minutes. And I was beyond impressed and just loving this episode in this series. You and I've said it. We're really digging this, man. And so anyways, I got more to say, but we'll get into our talking points, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going back to the 80s comment with it, even further than that. I'm sitting there, cliffhanger happens, and next thing you half expect to hear a voice come on. Will our hero survive? Will the mysterious stranger win the battle? Find out next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Yeah. Well, and to piggyback off you, Tom Kane did a kind of a similar role in Clone Wars, right?
Yes.
He would set us up, and they didn't have him at the end, but oh yeah, absolutely. Grew up with watching, Adam West and Burt Ward and that guy, whoever that was. I should look and see who the narrator was. But yeah, will Batman and Robin survive this time? Tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And yeah, so we all had to wait, people. It's called patience.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to find out who that voice was in the 60s Batman.
Oh, jeez.
William Dozier.
Oh, was it William Dozier?
William Dozier.
He was the producer too.
Yep. Classic legendary narrator and producer of classic TV series, as well as the Green Hornet.
Nice.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
See, you learn something outside of the Star Wars world when you listen to Reaction. So
that's right.
There we go. We've
talked Factoid.
We've talked soccer. We've talked the 60s Batman series. We've talked 80s TV. We're hitting all of it now. So, all right, well, let's talk Acolyte, because a lot of great things happened in this episode, and I like what you said in your openings when you opened us up. There's a lot we can talk about, but there's just not enough time in the day to break this down in the way that you would cover every single item in it. So we're going to hit some of the highlights of the episode day. So let's talk about we started talking about it during your opening statement. Fake Plo Koon. It was awesome to get that shot of the Jedi temple and the room where with all the Jedi meeting. Initially, I thought it was a council. And come to find out, it's not the Jedi Council meeting. It was just a bunch of Jedi. Yeah. And amongst them was a very familiar looking Jedi. It was a Keldor, but it was not who we thought it was. It was not Master Plo Koon. This was actually a Jedi named Ithia Pan. There's a Jedi named Ithia Pan, and it is a female Keldor. Yeah. According to StarWars.com. So this is just another Jedi of the same species as Plo Koon. So we have Plo Koon and Keldor. We have Yoda and Yaddle. We got Yadi Mundi and to be determined. Always two there are. But it was fun to see that because I will admit I got a little excited thinking it was Plo Koon. And I will say this. I was all excited thinking that was Plo Koon, but never in my right mind did I ever imagine that was Ki-Adi-Mundi. I figured it was the same species, but I didn't think Ki-Adi-Mundi. I didn't realize it was Ki-Adi-Mundi until I saw the credits and about fell off my couch. Yeah. But I got to ask you, David, what were your reactions when Ithia Pan showed up on screen?
Well, right. And there was brief glimpses of her in some of the trailers that we saw. And so most of us thought it was Plo Koon, but I think that's cool. It gives connective tissue into, the prequels, and even back to, prequels and Clone Wars and stuff like that. Like you, I was looking at this Syrian and I thought, is that Ki-Adi-Mundi? I was wondering, and now thinking about it. And again, you and I talked about this just briefly before we started recording, but we said, let's start recording because we've got to talk about this. It really makes sense to me that that's him, even more than Plo Koon, because of what Ki-Adi-Mundi says in, is it Phantom Menace where Qui-Gon says, I think it was Sith Lord when he encounters Maul. Right. On Tatooine. And so to have him here and make a very similar kind of comment as that can really kind of set the stage for him saying that, and perhaps it gives us a different angle on Ki-Adi that does he not believe it's a Sith Lord? We'll see how this plays out, and that's another question or comment I have within our talking points, but it really makes sense that it's him, right? And I'm curious to see if he shows up at all in a few more of these. We got 4 episodes left, but I was looking at him and I'm really glad that was him. Yes, and we also learned, like you said, this is not the High Council. These are all Jedi Masters, though, right? Vernestra Rose is Jedi Master. Saul is Master Saul. Master Holden is the woman that they're talking to there. And so then in my brain, I was thinking about all the comics I have on the High Republic and the books, and I was thinking to myself, I need to go back and check and see kind of who's on the High Council there. And of course, it could have changed in the 100 years from when the books are, right? The books and comics are 200 years before the Phantom Menace, and we're now 100 years. So again, all this can change, but I started thinking about that. But that was kind of a revelation that, this crew that we see in the Jedi Temple, at least these, including Vernestra Rose, they're not part of the High Council. I would assume Yoda is, and not sure who else at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I don't think we've seen a glimpse of the council, or I don't know if we will. Based on that conversation, I don't know if we will see a glimpse of the Jedi Council in this series because they're trying to keep everything, hush hush, which will be very interesting to see how that progresses. But just the mission with these Jedi is going to be overwhelming. I mean, we see that in the climax of the episode where we have the mysterious stranger show up, and I'm kind of getting ahead of us, but it just fits for this discussion, where we see all these Jedi lined up and ready to fight. They all ignite their sabers pretty much at the exact same time. And Ithia, Pan is there, and Saul and Yord and Jeki and a couple other Jedi. And it makes you wonder where this is going to lead, because the episode ends pretty much with the Jedi getting their butts kicked.
Right. Right.
So then, we sit here and say, well, based on the conversation, trying to keep it low key, we're not going to see the Jedi Council. But then you have a single Sith. Well, I have my opinion. I really don't think it's an actual Sith. I think that is our acolyte. It's not a Sith. It's a Sith believer with Force powers. I mean, that's a discussion for another time. But we see this single dark side user, literally taking out 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 Jedi with a wave of their hand.
Yeah.
Throwing them feet, just tossing them across the meadow like nothing happened without breaking a sweat. I mean, it's just, if stuff like that's happening, the council has to get involved.
Right.
You would think.
But you wonder if they don't. Right? That's
Well, there's talk of there's all the hubbub, and we don't do rumors, we don't do speculation, but there's discussion that there's supposed to be a season 2 of this show, and it can't. I mean, then you got the what ifs that happen with, okay, what would happen in the next season if there's more to it? Do we end up having some big event happen at the end of this series, and next thing you know, Vernestra and Saul are talking, and then you hear the door open and you see a little cane start walking through, and it cuts with little green feet.
Man.
And then it just credits roll and leave you hanging for the next season. Typical 80s television. But I don't know. So much to go off of, and so much to dig into. But these Jedi have their hands full, and we're just going to keep talking about the climax of this episode. We have to, because we're in too far at this point. I need to know your reactions, David, when the stranger comes floating in, has a confrontation with Osha. Then with the flick of her wrist, tosses her to the side and takes out 7 to 8 Jedi.
Well, look, that led to you and I, as our listeners know, you and I put talking points in, initial reactions, talking points, final reactions, and this has really been a question of mine since we saw May in the first episode battling Master Indara, is who's the acolyte? Is there is it May? Is it the stranger here? I see some people calling him a zipper face and Darth Smile or some, all these different names. I've heard a lot of people come up with stuff, but again, the episode guide calls it the stranger. I was going to ask you, and even our listeners, to chime in. is this character a Sith Lord? Like you just mentioned a minute ago, I don't think so. Because that was my question. Is this a Sith Lord? Is this an acolyte or an apprentice? And is there a Sith Lord behind this character that we see at the end? And so, like I said, when credits rolled, I'm, of course, not only looking to see, is that Ki-Adi-Mundi and Plo Koon, but I'm also immediately asking in my head, who is this? And that's why I think ultimately, this isn't right. A lot of people say, well, this isn't a murder mystery. We're already, it's kind of billed as that. No, it's really, who's the acolyte? Is there a Sith Lord? Is an acolyte an apprentice in essence, right, to a Sith Lord? And then where my brain is going, kind of like you said, with the power of the stranger, this character, again, I'm visualizing Anakin sitting with Palpatine in the opera house, talking about the story of Darth, right, tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, and I'm just going back in my head. I'm like, okay, how old was Plagueis when Palpatine killed him? And then you and I've talked about this before on the show, that I believe in it. What, I don't know if is it canon yet or not, but Darth Tenebris, right, is the one before Plagueis, and so are they going to connect it? Like if you go back 100 years, would that be about right? Would it be Darth Tenebris being the one, either this character or behind the stranger here? Very curious, very curious. Now, something I thought about is my understanding. Here's where again, in all my free time, I've been doing all the High Republic. I need to listen to Darth Plagueis. I want to listen to that on Audible. And my understanding is that Darth Plagueis is a Bith. Is that right? Or no, a Mun. A Mun.
Right? Yes, a Mun. Yes.
A Mun, right? So the long-headed guys that we see, even back in the Clone Wars microseries, right? We see those characters, and Obi-Wan's going at the Mun from the banking clan. And so when you look at this character, one of the things I was looking at is, okay, the helmet size, but also the hand. When he or she flicks Osha to the side, it's a human hand, right? And like you said, when you see the 6, 7, 8 Jedi go flying, you see a hand, a human hand, not, from a Mun who have the really long fingers, or from a Bith, the Cantina Band guys, you don't see that kind of hand. So I'm just trying to pick up hints and clues best I can. But these, when you ask me, these are all the thoughts that are running through my head. And isn't that wonderful? This is wonderful. We're exciting. We want to know. And so it's the mystery, right? And it keeps getting, kind of laid out. And we're halfway through. We got 4 more episodes. And I said it last week when Jason Brain was, I'm all in, man. I'm even more in. I thought it was a great ending. And, you mentioned it earlier, I think when we were talking, when that lightsaber came up, I'm like, oh my gosh, the way they filmed it, I'm like, did he or she just impale Osha? I'm like, what? And I love that angle, didn't you?
Oh man, it was amazing.
Yeah, how they shot that. They fooled me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they definitely did. For sure. Oh, man, there's so much to go into. The personally, to go back to the stranger for a minute, and you asked the question whether or not we think he's a Sith or a
like an acolyte or
an acolyte.
Sith Lord.
Based on when this takes place, I mean, this is supposed to be 100 years before the prequels. So it would be like 130 years before, 140 years before, or 120 years before Battle of Yavin, 125 years, give or take, which would put, digging into Legends or the expanded universe would make Darth Plagueis alive.
Okay.
And Plagueis, because according to Legends, he was born somewhere between somewhere around 147
Okay, BBY.
BBY before Battle of Yavin. So this would put him in play at that point. So you would assume he would be partnered with his master at that point, whoever that was. I don't know. I'd have to Google it. But I'm not going to do that. But so my opinion, I mean, basing on, and the thing is, we know very little when it comes to plays. Everything, majority of what we know is legends. Nothing's been canonized about his early years. But based on what we know about Plagueis, combining legends and what is canon, I would say that the stranger is the acolyte, because we see non-Sith using dark side powers all the time. We see these witches from the last episode. We see the Night Sisters.
Yes.
We see, I mean, even Asajj. She's not a Sith.
That's right.
I would classify her as an acolyte.
She is, yeah. Yeah.
And look how strong and powerful she was and skilled with dual lightsabers. She gave Anakin and Obi-Wan a run for their money every time they fought.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say that stranger or zipper face or whatever you want to call him. Personally, I saw the smile and I was thinking Jaws from the Bond movies, but hey,
yes.
But I think I'm thinking, I think that is our acolyte.
That makes sense. I like your reasoning, particularly like you said, if it's 147, so it would put Plagueis at about in his 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
very interesting. Very interesting.
So that's where I'm going with. That's where I'm believing. I'll go ahead and throw it out there. I'm also believing that Chimere is the acolyte as well.
A lot of people are thinking that. Yes.
Yeah. So either yes, everybody's guessed correctly, and Chimere's the acolyte, or Leslie Headland is about to completely twist us around and leave us shocked that it's somebody else, or worse off, she pulls a Dave Filoni and leaves us hanging.
Doesn't tell us, yeah.
Just doesn't tell us. And next thing you know, we see she's at Celebration with a T-shirt that says, "The stranger is ... and that's it.
Yeah.
It's along there with Dave Filoni. Ahsoka lives ?
We were there for that panel in 2017 when he did.
That was amazing.
Right. Yes, we were there, and he had the shirt on. What was it? ? And then we watched the first episode of season 4.
4 of Rebels. Yep.
And then lights come up, and the shirt is not. Is it Ahsoka lives ?
Exclamation point. Yep.
And we were all like kind of looking at him, and then you start to hear the fans, all of us start murmuring, "Wait a minute."
I gotta say, Dave Filoni is the greatest thing that happened to Star Wars since George Lucas.
He's huge, man, and
he's the greatest thing that happened to Star Wars since George Lucas, and hands down, he is the chosen one.
Yeah, well, I think that's where George, to use another Lucasfilm property, Indiana Jones, he chose wisely.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. He really did. And I think he could really see that in Dave, that he's an excellent and would really do a great job with these characters and these stories. But I am curious to see what Rebel Base Card podcast, Greg McLaughlin and Dr. Greg Cass, who they think, because I know this will be one of their questions. Who do you think the stranger is? Right. So they always do everything in the form of questions, which is excellent. But I'll be listening to them and seeing what they think as well. But I'm with you. I like what you laid down, and it's it's fun to do it because we do see a lot of stuff from the EU now called Legends being pulled in every year, right? Every series being pulled over. So yeah.
Well, one more thing, then we are going to keep trucking along. If they really want to get everybody's goose, and I think I told you this before we started recording. The last episode, that helmet comes off, the stranger escapes. The helmet comes off, and you go, "Misa lucky to escape. Misa go in hiding."
Darth Jar Jar.
Darth Jar Jar.
The fandom would lose it.
Oh my gosh, that would be the perfect tie-in for the Lego special coming out in September, where they actually have Darth Jar Jar. So, all right. Well, let's keep moving because at this point we will never get done tonight. But before we keep trucking along, let us stop for a quick break. So hang with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here, and we are talking Day, the 4th episode of The Acolyte. Let's keep moving here because one of the things I wanted to talk about, and I kind of thought our discussion on if the Pan would spin off into this, but we went in a completely different direction, which works for me. But there were a lot of nods to other Star Wars properties in this episode, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. Of course, we got of course, this creature was, of course, introduced before the episode even aired. It was I think it's over the weekend or last Friday. Basil was introduced in a nice article there on StarWars.com about the creature shop. And Basil is a Tenian, a species that was first introduced in the Han Solo novel Revenge from 1979. Yeah. So we have that species here, which I love that character. He was so much fun. Especially when he's off tracking and he disappears and Yor's like, we need a tracker just to track our tracker.
That was good.
That was fabulous. But then, of course, we have other species as well. Of course, the Keldor for Plo Koon. But we also see Tarlafar, which, of course, we saw in Solo, a Star Wars story, in the background. But we most recently saw it in the 3rd season of The Bad Batch.
That's right.
Baby Byron was a Tarlafar.
Yeah.
So that was a cool connection. But then we had a connection to the original Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic video game from 2003. In the Temple Spaceport hallway, there was a Selkath operating one of the stations there. And that, of course, was from Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, I thought that was uniquely fun as well. So a lot of cool things going on there. Then, of course, one thing too, and I kind of thought it when I first saw it, but I didn't think much of it till I saw the trivia gallery on StarWars.com. The trees design on the planet was kind of influenced by Macquarie. Of course, everything in Star Wars influenced by Macquarie, but kind of resembled the spiders that we ended up seeing in The Mandalorian. So I thought that was a little cool nod as well. So
yeah.
And of course, as the originator of the Creature Corner, David, back when we did Resistance reactions,
yes.
What were your thoughts on all these creatures making their appearance?
Oh yeah, I was thinking, what is it? The Umbra Moth? Umbra
Mhm.
Moth, I think is the name of it, and the Tinnin, of course, the Keldor, and all this stuff. Um, yeah, no, for me it was pretty cool. One little subtlety. I was curious if you saw this or if our listeners saw this, but when they get to that part of the forest on Kofar and they're trying to find Kelnaka, you remember Osha stops and she stops right by one of those. They look like a roly poly to me, like you see roly polies
Yes.
roll up. That's what I think of them as, but they're massive and they're eating on the trees, obviously. Right?
Yes.
You see them just destroying the trees. And and I don't know if people noticed it, but as she walks up to it, before she touches it, there's two little eyes in there that are on, and then she touches it, and then the next thing you see, the eyes, you see they're closed. They're very subtle, two little eyes inside the shell. So I think they obviously they go from that into the flying Umbra moths that Saul cut in half. But did you happen to see the two little eyes inside of the shell? Did you see it?
Did not.
Yeah, next time take a look. Very subtle. Two little, like almost like two little lights, but you see them and then you don't. So you're like, whoa, it's in there. And
Mm.
when she touches it, I thought, is something going to come out or what? But obviously we see it crawl up to the other side of the tree. But yeah, just a little subtlety there from the creature corner expert resistance. Yeah, it was amazing to see all this stuff. And uh, I guess even what was I going to say? I don't know. I guess I was. Oh, I know. Even when they land on Kofar, when you see Jedi Padawan Jeki Lon talking to some of the locals there,
Hmm.
even know what kind of backgrounds they have, but they look like aliens, and stuff too. So a lot of really cool stuff. But I was going to ask you, did you like the character of is it Basil? Basil's more like what, dill and celery, and I feel like, but I think it's Basil.
Basil.
I think it's Basil. And did you like him, that little
I
character?
I did. I did like Basil. He was he was really a unique character. I loved how he carried himself. He had a very, honestly, to me, and I'll, and this will go either way with a lot of people. So
Yeah.
be it. He reminded me of an Ewok.
Oh,
He had that small fluffy Ewok feel to him.
Mhm.
And I kind of like that. I I could see a whole race of these guys running around,
Yeah.
and it would be a lot of fun. I could see a little bit of Ewok in them, and I don't know if you remember the episodes of the Clone Wars where um, they're on a play. I forget I can't remember the names of the episodes or the planet, and I should have looked this up before we started because I was thinking about this yesterday, and I didn't. I was at work and I couldn't get to it, but where the Trade Federation, not Trade Federation, the Separatists are testing basically a weapon of mass destruction, and there's this little village with these little small people in it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and there's only like a handful of clones, and Anakin, who is injured, and Obi-Wan. No, Obi-Wan's not there. Ahsoka, was it Ayla Secura was
A-list
there?
actor. A-list actor.
And they're having to defend this village with these micro-sized creatures that live in it, from the separatists, and the village people will not fight because they're pacifists, and they don't believe in fighting. So Basil reminded me of
Base.
them as well.
Yes. Yes. Good call out. Good. Yes.
So
I hear you. Yeah.
kind of a
Facial.
kind
Yeah.
of a mesh of those. It's
Yes.
killing me. I can't remember what they were called, but of them, and of course, uh,
You?
an Ewok all mixed in together. So that's where Basil reminded me of, especially too with his little, he had his little nose going, sniffing and stuff like we saw Wicket do in Return of the Jedi, and sniffing around and taking off, running around. Then of course, when he finds May, he just stands there and screams and squeals and screams and squeals. Doesn't run away. He just stands there and screams and squeals, you know.
You know, something I didn't pick up on, but I think I learned it in the Star Wars episode guide here, the episode guide here, that Osha and Basil have the same uniform on.
Yes, they did. I noticed that immediately. It's because they're civilians.
Yes, it's funny. I was like, and I'm sure Osha's like, great. Yeah, this is great. So a little bit of humor there. I love that. I love that.
Oh, and the thing is that what's hilarious is that was a joke they put in the episode that if you weren't paying attention, you missed it. No, because she says when they're going on the mission, when Saul asks her to go on the mission, she specifically asks him, "Don't make me wear the civilian uniform."
Right.
And then we see the next scene, we see her kind of slouched down in the chair looking all grumpy and stuff. And she's in a uniform, but you don't think anything of it because all the Jedi are there in their uniforms. Then Basil walks in and he's wearing the same thing that she is. And you have Yord addressing them as civilian.
I know.
You got something to say, civilian. And so if you weren't, if you, it was a very subtle joke that was plunged in there that if you weren't paying attention, you would have missed. But I loved that scene.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. So that's one of the things with the second viewing, looking at the episode guide, I'm like, oh man, yeah. And there are a lot of, and I think this is a really key thing to talk about as a talking point is there's a lot of subtleties. I'll give you one. The first time I watched this episode, I didn't notice it, but the second time I did, where they do a close-up, this is after May and Chimera have arrived on Kofar, and he goes and gets water, but she's standing there and she pulls something out of her bag, and I didn't pick up on it, but I looked at it a second time, and you see her pulling out that rope. You know, little things like that. You know, I didn't see that the first time because you're trying to take everything in, listen, and that's what's so fun. So, you know, it is the truth. Watching these a second time, I try to always watch it the first time with the subtitles, second time just taking all the visuals. And so, yeah, little hints, little clues in what they say. And like you mentioned with her saying that, I didn't pick up on her. You know, I knew she said that to Saul, but then I didn't really pick up on, oh, wait a minute, Basil has the same outfit. And I'm like, oh man, that's fun, you know? So yeah, a lot of little subtleties here, even learning, well, okay, all of you are not the High Council. Oh, wow. Okay. Who's the High Council then? Yeah. Little things here and there. Even how Chimera, if you watch it a second time, as they're walking and trying to get over to the forest line, all the way that he speaks, just watch and listen to how he speaks and how he messes up. And unless Leslie Headland again is trying to throw out a red herring, right? Or throw us off the trail. It's just, there's a lot of stuff going on in 28 minutes. So you got to watch it a couple times at least to get everything. You know?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm glad, and I'm glad we're talking about this too, because you even brought up the beginning when they're talking to the shop owner or whatever it was, the local, when Jackie is talking to them.
Yeah.
But the fact that she's standing there and she's talking and she's using a translating device, and turning it back and forth between them. So she can speak into it, then it'll translate, that he speaks and it translates. The fact that they're using a translation device, it to me was mind-boggling, because that's not something we have seen in Star Wars.
No, usually you got to have a protocol droid like C-3PO does.
You either have a droid that's doing the translating for you, where everybody speaks basic.
Right, right. Now that you said it, I didn't even pick up on that. I thought when she turned it around, I'm like, wait, what is that? I thought she was showing a picture, but I'm like, there's no screen.
No,
No,
there's
no,
translation device.
Yeah, yeah.
To quote Star Trek, it's a universal translator.
Wow. Yeah.
So I thought that was fantastic. And it's little things like that. That's, even if, and I tell people, a lot of people think probably we watch these multiple times because we do these shows, which we do, but there's so much jam packed in these episodes that even if you and I were doing the show each week,
Right.
I would still be watching it multiple times just to pick up on as much as I can, because there's so much crammed into it.
What?
And David, you know me well, and if y'all have listened for a long time, y'all know I rewatch Rebels at least, and I'm emphasizing at least once a year. Most of the time I do it twice a year, once in the first 6 months, once in the second 6 months. And I still pick up on stuff that I missed in the original watchings.
That's cool.
Because there's just so much there. You notice either a twitch of the hand or a roll of the eye or something rolling in the background. There's always something I catch every time I rewatch the show. And I've watched Rebels probably 30 or 40 times by now, the whole series.
Wow.
Yes, I'm a little obsessed, y'all. And if y'all if y'all follow us online, I'm obsessed, because I post, if I'm not posting Acolyte stuff or episode stuff, I'm posting Rebel clips, or pictures of Chopper. So I'm a little Rebel cessed.
Yes. Oh my gosh. But no, and I think that's a hallmark, right? When you hear other Star Wars fans talk, they're looking in every nook and cranny, and the creatives, hopefully, know this, because they're big fans and they looked in every nook and cranny. And I think it really started with the Cantina, in 1977, and it's really grown from there. But no, and I think, I don't know if you want to. Do you want to transition into talking about Osha and May?
Yes, go ahead.
Because this fits with what you and I are talking about these subtleties, right? There's subtleties throughout this, and going back, what for our listeners, what Aaron said about you don't have to do a podcast. Go back and watch these 2 or 3 times, and like some of the subtleties in this one related to Osha talking about starting to get some of her force sensitivity back. Very subtle. Another one, May talking to Chimere, and just really talking about how, what, my loyalty is not to you or to the master, it's to my sister. And then it takes me back to, when they're walking on the planet, and Osha calls Yord over and says, listen, if I have to face May, I can't do it. I need your help. And then he says a lot in just a few words about how, maybe Master Saul has you along, not just to face May, but to face your past, And ultimately, I think that's what, well, maybe Yord isn't, but, May, Osha, and then, of course, our 4 Jedi Masters, we're seeing them and looking back at their past. So a lot of stuff laid in here for them. And I was thinking about something that I heard someone talk about when you look at these stories, and you and I've talk about Star Trek, or you talk about Marvel characters, or I think about DC, Superman and all this stuff. There's kind of 2 different types of stories, right? You have extraordinary characters, like a Superman comes from the planet Krypton, and so you have this Superman, or you have Wonder Woman, right? And they come to this planet, and they're extraordinary among ordinary people. Or you flip the script and you have ordinary people do extraordinary things, right? And that's what they talk about right a lot in Hollywood. And you think about, like I think about it here, where you've got a little bit of a mixture, and it's particularly fascinating within, and Greg McLaughlin was teasing you and me about there's a lot of psychology just in the two. So he does this to me, he throws this out here and just gets me going. But in Osha, right, Aaron, you're seeing a person who could be extraordinary, but you also see her as ordinary. And she's in this tweener phase right now, which I think is very fascinating in this episode. And I'm curious again, here's the writers have me interested. Where's this going to go for her? Where's it going to go for May, right? Is she going to start using her force abilities for good? And I'm curious about that. But I don't know. I thought about Batman. I thought about Superman. I thought about Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Spider-Man, Thor. Now here, this is different than Peter Parker getting bit. Thor comes down with a hammer and he's from another planet and he's shooting through the sky. The hammer pulls him everywhere. It's just unbelievable. Versus say, Tony Stark and Iron Man. I mean, he can be hurt and killed pretty fast. I thought about all these characters when I thought about Osha. Is she really, extraordinary and her force powers diminished because of the stuff with May and being part of a coven? And we talk about the dark side cloud stuff and hinders you, or is she more of a normal person who's going to do extraordinary things? Either way. So I don't know. I wanted to throw that out there to you, to our listeners to think about, but I think it's pretty cool when these storylines for these two particular characters get me thinking about some of our most beloved characters in various IPs.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, well said. And you're talking about the superheroes and whether she's ordinary or not. And I go back to the Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2,
Yes.
when he is going through that debate of Spider-Man or not. And one of the songs on the soundtrack for that movie is by the group Train, and the song is called Ordinary. and the line is, I'm anything but ordinary.
Yeah.
And all those characters that you mentioned, including Osha and May, they're anything but ordinary.
Right. And how they started. Yes.
So it fit perfectly. But what I love about their story, and they're right. They're not ordinary. I love, and I love the words you used on the notes, is their journey is shifting.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And we see it in, I saw two examples of that in this episode. One was at the beginning when Saul is recruiting, catches Osha at the shipyard.
Yes.
And asks her to come back. He needs help on the mission. And she's like, you want me to be a Jedi? And she got excited for a moment. And he goes, no, you'll be an advisor. And she's all excited. Then you kind of see her kind of let down a little bit. So you see her kind of almost wanting to go back into that Jedi fold, and where she was trying to get away from it originally. You see her now longing for that, almost longing a little bit to be back in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas you have May, who has killed two Jedi and is looking to kill her third, finds out her sister's alive, then tells Kymar's like, don't let your sister distract you. That doesn't change anything. And she basically traps him, hanging him upside down. He goes, oh no, Osha being alive changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point that she is willing to go turn herself in to Kalnaka to be taken back to Coruscant to face the music because Osha is alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
You talk about shifting journeys, shifting perspectives, change of heart, redemption.
Oh yeah.
This is it, y'all. This is Star Wars. This is what Star Wars is about. There's a redemption story going on here.
Well, you and I talked about it, just got done talking about it this past spring regarding Crosshair.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that whole, yeah.
Star Wars is, to quote Jenner, so built on hope. Rebellions are built on hope. Star Wars is built on hope. It's built on redemption. It's built on change. People can change. Anakin changed into Vader. Vader changed back to Anakin. Those changes occurred. Luke changed from a squeaky farm boy to an all-powerful Jedi.
Yeah. Well,
these are characters that change. Star Wars is full of change, and that's what's happening in this.
Well, even back to your favorite show, Rebels, with Hot Callus, right? And Callus. But you and I asked this in our reactions chat. We have our set of questions, and one of the things we ask is, what are, that person we're interviewing, what are some of their favorite themes, right? Mm-hmm. Within Star Wars. And you and I always talk about the big ones, and all of our guests hit on them. Mm-hmm. So yeah, redemption is there, and it's quite a concept, and we're starting to see. We're only we're halfway through the season, but in 4 episodes, a lot has happened here, a lot, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how both of them transition. Like, do they both get stronger in the Force? I'm curious if we're going to see that for Osha, being by the Jedi, learning from them. We talk about light side, dark side balance and stuff like that. And you hope you can see it start to tilt a bit for both of them in a good way. But yeah, no matter what, May, because of what she's done, would have to face a Jedi tribunal and stuff. But again, we're still seeing the redemptive arc here, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are, and she is willing to face the music. Matter of fact, even at the end of the episode, when the stranger shows up, she's hiding in Kalnaka's cabin, looking through cracks in the door.
Right.
Watching, because she knows he's there. She can feel it. Of course, which kind of brings us into the next thing. Kalnaka's dead.
Yes. I was like, what? Did you do that? Like, when he was like, he looked slouched over, I'm like, oh no, what happened? And then they come around and you see that slice, and you're like, I hardly knew you, Kalnaka. I hardly knew you.
Exactly. So, I was, that kind of surprised me. But as soon as I saw the slice across the chest, I'm like, okay, her master is there. So I knew he was there somewhere. And then, of course, the whole atmosphere changed, and she went from the confident assassin that we saw in the first couple episodes to somebody who had hope. Was going, because when she leaves Kymar hanging there and she takes off, she is running to the cabin, and she's full of hope. Even though she's going to she has to face the music, she's full of hope because Osha's alive. And then when she finds Kalnaka dead, and the Jedi arrive, and she can feel the presence of
the
stranger, that hope is gone.
Well, and then it goes from day, and then you see the light clear up, and then now it's night. I'm curious if this next episode is going to be called Night. Just throwing it out there, people.
Yeah, it could be. You never know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was fantastic. Oh my gosh, absolutely great. and anything else you want to talk about from our talking points that we have not hit on, or that's not in our talking points that you want to hit on before we start wrapping stuff up?
No, I don't think so. I feel good with what we've covered. Like we said, there's so much more. We could go into all these things in a lot more depth, but we're, trying to cover it and let people enjoy it. And but I'm loving this, man. I'm loving it.
Da 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 da. He's loving it.
There's final reactions. I'm loving it.
Oh yeah, we are. Well, in that case, we're going to close out our talking points. Before we go into final reactions, we're going to take one last break. When we come back, we'll do final reactions. Dave will do his psychology factoid. And of course, we'll end things with the fantastic, long anticipated, and highly loved Star Wars Dad Joke of the Week. So hang on. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here. We're wrapping up our discussion of Day, and it's been a great discussion so far. So let's go ahead and jump into our final reactions. And David, why don't you kick us off, my brother?
Yeah, like we said just a minute ago before the break, I'm loving this. One of the comments I want to make is I'm wondering if everybody who lost their mind after the last episode with the Coven of Witches and that episode, I'm wondering if they're feeling different now, in seeing how this episode played out. I hope so. You kind of just want people to chill out, let the story unfold. Let's not judge everything before it's done, and that's my one little, kind of comment, like let the storytellers tell this story. It's 8 episodes. We all know this. Are we done after 3? And so just a side question. I'm curious if some of them are like, let's see, I really criticized episode 3s and I love this, who knows? Maybe you can't make them ever happy, but I'm enjoying this. I'm loving the story. I love the questions it's generating, more mystery. I loved the ending to this, just like Aaron and I talked about. How they filmed it with the stranger bringing the lightsaber up, and I thought, oh my gosh, is this individual impaling Osha, but didn't, and then force pushing all those Jedi. Cannot wait for the next episode. I think we've obviously seen a few clips of it, right? With Master Soul asking, what are you? Not who are you, what are you? And so we've seen that, and I think the stranger will throw that lightsaber, right? We do see that. Again, I'm not spoiling anything. Those are in clips that have, we've seen for quite a while, but I'm looking forward to seeing the whole rest of this battle and see how it plays out, and of course this story. But I'm loving where they're going with Osha and May. Sorry to see another Jedi dead, but at least we got Master Soul left, and I love how they're just sprinkling in some really cool stuff with Ki-Adi-Mundi and how it does, ultimately lead up to the Phantom Menace. So they're really putting this together, I think, really well. I'm very impressed. How about you?
Oh man, I am like beyond impressed. I think this was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed the episode. I think there's so much that this show is offering that a lot of people are missing out on, because there is so much subtlety in this, and a lot of people are have their, so and we've said this a number of times, not just reviewing this but reviewing other shows as well. But all the stuff we're getting, all the Star Wars stuff we're getting, there is going to be stuff that you like, and there's going to be stuff you don't like. You've liked stuff that I didn't like. There's stuff that I like that you didn't like, and so on and so forth. And that's fine. There's no issue with that. But we can all still get along.
Right.
There's no reason for any type of bitterness or anger or hostility or hate to be tossed around the way it's been happening. But with that said, I personally am thoroughly enjoying this series. And it is, I mean, I'll be honest, so far I have enjoyed this series more than to date. I've enjoyed this series more than Andor.
Oh yeah, that's big. That's big.
And I loved Andor. But I am enjoying this more than Andor. I don't know why. I just am. And I still love Andor. Don't get me wrong. Don't take that the wrong way. I still love Andor. But I am loving what we're getting in this series. It is a lot of fun. It is a lot of storytelling. And honestly, I don't care what everybody, for me, I can see that this series is being made by somebody who has a love for Star Wars. Because if they didn't, we would not be getting all these subtle hints in here, the nods to creatures, the connections to the other properties, the connections to the other series, animated. We're getting connections to books, to comics, to video games. I mean, we wouldn't be getting those connections because they would just, make a show. But we're getting that. And I'm loving what this is. And there was a line in the beginning of this episode when Osha is talking to Jackie in the temple. Jackie had just finished her training, and Osha is basically saying adios because she's leaving. And they're discussing everything about May being alive but still being out there, and why she's leaving and everything. And Jackie looks at Osha and makes a statement: "We're not defined by what we lose. We're defined by what we survive." And that is the story of this series. That line sums up this series. Osha and May, they've survived. But they're holding on to what was lost, which is affecting their future. And now they got to let go. And I don't know. I'm loving this storytelling, and I'm loving what we're getting. And honestly, I cannot wait till Tuesday night. I'm already set aside my time. I am ready to run. I don't know about you. I'll be sitting here with a bucket of popcorn and ready to fly. So, and if it picks up where it left off, if it doesn't pick up where it left off, I'm going to be sick. But this will be a completely different discussion next week. But yeah, I'm loving this. So there we go. So with that, of course, we want to know what you think of not only the episode day, but of the Acolyte as a whole. As you basically could tell from what we said, we don't care what your opinion is, whether you like it, you don't like it. Let us know what you think. We want to know. Just be respectful is all we ask. Let us know. You can hit us up on any of our social media accounts, Facebook or X at SW Reactions Pod, TikTok or Instagram or Threads or Pinterest or Tumblr, where you can see a lot of our show notes, or Blue Sky, YouTube, LSW Reactions, or you can email us swreactions@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail. We love getting those. Speakpipe.com/Star Wars Reactions. So with that, my friend David, I am going to turn the floor over to you for this week's Factoid, psychology factoid.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, and I'll do this one, and like I've always been hinting here so far in this series, Acolyte, that um, I have a kind of a series of factoids that are related for the last 4 episodes, and it'll all be on treating treatment-resistant depression and anxiety. So, looking forward to that. But in this one, in this factoid, it's kind of neat. I was reading this in one of my monitors on psychology. It shows that in indigenous communities, cash resources are not critical to life satisfaction. That's fascinating to me because we we live in a culture where it is. What have I said, Aaron? You know this. Our culture is focused on 2 things: youth and money. Right? It's focused on cash. And so, anyways, they did an interesting survey. They looked at 19 indigenous and local communities worldwide. Okay. And 36% of those communities reported having no cash income. Isn't that crazy? That's pretty wild. Here's another little factor. They kind of give you these little ones. $1,559. This was the average estimated annual cash income per person in those sites reporting cash income, right? And it's measured in US dollars. So 36% of those 19 communities, there was no cash income, didn't have it. But in some of the ones that did, $1,559 annually, not a month or a day, in a year. 6.8. Here's the next number. This was the average life satisfaction scores of the surveyed communities, right? Those 19 communities, based on a 10-point scale. And this was equivalent, that 6.8 out of 10 was equivalent to scores found by the World Values Survey that looked at several countries, and the ratings there were for Canada, Singapore, and the US were all about similar scores, 6.8. So they didn't need cash. These other countries do, but they're satisfied with their life and not worshiping money. 4 of the sites reported average scores of higher than 8 out of 10, which is seen in wealthy Scandinavian countries that's been looked at in other polls. So I thought that was pretty neat to see, kind of a neat little factoid, and showing that money doesn't have to be our only source of satisfaction. So there you go. A few little factoids in there, Aaron.
Very good. Very good. Now, of course, if somebody has questions about said factoid or about Star Wars in general, how would they go about talking about that with you?
Absolutely. It's always, well, we've done it for a long time at Twitter X. My handle there is at David_Modders, MODDERS. Let's see what else. Instagram, just look up my name. And then, as I've been mentioning the last, I don't know how long, just to, if you want to send something to our show email or any of our socials, Aaron monitors all those and he'll forward it to me. Of course, you can go through SpeakPipe as well, and Aaron will hit those up. But Blue Sky, and so yeah, there's plenty of places to look me up.
Very good. Very good. And of course, if you want to talk Star Wars with me or just anything in general with me, whether soccer, hockey, whatever, I'm here for the run. X is the best place at TA Harris 121079. Of course, any of the show accounts you'll get directly to me. I will answer you from there. I do that all the time, so feel free to hit us up and let us know. David, it's that time, my friend.
Yeah, I'm ready.
It's the most wonderful time of the show. It is time for the Star Wars Dad Joke of the Week. And this week, I got one for you, David. And if you are ready, here we go.
All right, let's do this.
This one's more of a little bit of a story for you, David.
Okay.
A fuzzy tauntaun walked into Olga's cantina. The excited bartender looked at the tauntaun and said, "We have a drink named after you." The fuzzy tauntaun turned and looked at the bartender and goes, "You have a drink called Steve?"
Jeez. Oh my God. Where did you get that? That's not in the Star Wars dad joke, is it?
It is not.
By Kelly Knox?
But it is by Kelly Knox. This is I saw this on her Twitter a few days ago, and I'm like, oh, that's my joke for the week.
Oh my gosh.
That is a Kelly Knox special, straight from her X account. So kudos, Kelly, and nod to you. Yes, I that is a Kelly Knox special.
Nice. Yeah, with the fuzzy tauntaun. Yeah, I love that drink, by the way. But that's great. She's good. She's really good. Again, everybody go back to April, listen to our interview with Kelly. She was wonderful.
Yeah, she was. So, all right. Well, David, I think that wraps everything up tonight, dude.
Absolutely. Wonderful to record with you again, buddy.
Absolutely fun as always. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another fantastic episode of Star Wars Reactions. We are so thankful that you spend your time with us each week. We are so grateful that you join us. We love y'all. We're praying for y'all all the time. And like I say each week, make this the year of kindness. Do something kind for somebody, but also be kind about everything. Just because you disagree with somebody about a point, that does not make them your enemy. You can disagree and still get along. It's happened for many years in this world and will continue to happen. So don't give in. To quote the Jedi, don't give in to your hate. Remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions, unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.